In this video, we're going to talk about overcoming your fading enthusiasm as you're preparing for your SAT and your ACT. I'm Kat Severson. I'm the inventor of the Severson method, a scientifically proven way to learn anything fast and overcome your fading enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is not only the high-level vocabulary word that I need you to know, it's also a feeling. It's the feeling that a lot of my students begin with. When we begin preparing for the SAT and the ACT, they feel very enthusiastic, they feel committed, they feel excited, and they're motivated. They're thinking to themselves that they want to do this, they want to do really, really well, and well, it's obvious because the SAT or the ACT, they're both very high-stakes tests that will allow you to have the career that you want, to go into the college that you were so dreaming to get into. Now, you begin with all of that motivation, but the SAT and the ACT preparation process could be a lengthy one. For some of my students, it's a couple of months. For some of my students, it could take 6 or 8, and sometimes it takes a whole year. And it's totally normal that your enthusiasm will die down and it will fade. And there are a few things that we can do to bring it back up. I like to do this exercise with my students to remind them that their thinking is something that creates their motivation. Their thinking is something that generates that enthusiasm. So they're not walking around saying, well, I don't know, I just lost the enthusiasm. Like, I just can't find the motivation. As if motivation is something tangible that they can find. Motivation is something that gets created by yourself. And here's an exercise that I suggest that we do. And this will really help you create this internal motivation and combat that fading enthusiasm. So here's how I suggest we do this. I have a list of questions for you. I'm going to read those questions, and I also will put a sheet below this video that you can download and answer them. But if you want to, we can just try to do this as you're watching this video. The first question that I want you to answer is this. How did you feel when you started studying for the SAT? Think about it. How did you feel? Did you feel committed? Did you feel motivated? Did you feel excited? How did you feel? That feeling, believe it or not, that was created by your thinking. So my next question is this. What was the thinking that created that feeling? Your brain was thinking a sentence. It could be something like, I'm definitely going to do this. I want to do well. I want to succeed. I'm going to apply myself. I'm going to do this no matter what. I really want this. This is going to be different. I'm really committed. One of these sentences that your brain came up with created that feeling that we talked about in the question above. What was the thinking? And if you were confused, it's okay. Just give me anything. It could be any sentence that you think you were thinking. There are no right or wrong answers. Next question. How do you feel now? You could feel perhaps discouraged, unmotivated, unproductive, scattered. How do you feel now? Check in with yourself. How do you feel? Next question. What thoughts are you thinking now that are creating your current feeling? What is it that you're thinking? Perhaps you're thinking that it's too much. I could not do this. I'm not smart enough. Perhaps you're thinking that there's not enough time in the day. Perhaps you're thinking that your other things are taking up all of your time. Any of those thoughts could be true. Maybe you have a collection of thoughts that are creating the current feeling, but I want you to know that all of those thoughts are optional. These are not facts. This is not something that you need to believe. It's just very curious to look in your brain and see, what is it that I'm currently thinking? Write that down. The next sentence or the next question is, what is the major difference between the thoughts you were thinking at the beginning and the thoughts you're thinking now? And it's really easy to do because we already answered the question, what was the thinking at the beginning? And we answered the question, what is the thinking now? Now, all you need to do is just to do the analysis. What is the major difference? Do you no longer believe in yourself? Have you started thinking that this is no longer your priority? Did you start to think that this is too hard? Next question. What will happen if you keep your current thoughts? Let's take an example. Let's say you believe that this is too much and you can't do it. and you have all this evidence, and you have those extracurriculars, and you're also writing the essays, and you're also on a rowing team, and you're starting to get into a romantic relationship, or maybe you just broke up with somebody and you're listening to all the sad songs, or maybe you're looking for a date and that takes up a lot of time. Maybe there are all these events that you get invited to, and all those theater and extracurriculars that you're engaged. Maybe you're just doing the schoolwork and that takes up a lot of your time. Maybe you have all of those corroborating evidence, but this is an optional thought. I don't have time for this. That you choose to believe. And if you were to continue believing in that, what would the result be? If you chose to believe you don't have time for the SAT or the ACT, you are not going to have time for the SAT or the ACT. The time is not going to appear out of nowhere. You're not going to create it because you think that you don't have time. So pause for a moment and answer, what will happen if you keep your current thinking? If now this is sounding too dark, don't worry, there's one more question. What thoughts will you need to think to get to the score you want? Do you think you need to be thinking more of your current thoughts or more of the thoughts that you began with? And I suggest that you write the exact thought that you want to be thinking. For some of my students, that thought is, I got this. This is my number one priority. I can do this. If I apply myself, I can get a good score. For some of my students, it's just as easy as thinking there's plenty of time if I actually schedule myself. There's plenty of time for me to do X if I cut out playing this computer game. I encourage you to post your last answer in the comments below this video. And good luck. Dealing with this fading enthusiasm is something that a lot of my students deal with. I think 99% of them do. I think that the only types of students that don't are those that only spend a month preparing for the test and they're only doing it last moment. And usually, unless you're really smart to begin with, usually that doesn't yield a good score. So if you're dealing with a fading enthusiasm, nothing has gone wrong. You have a human brain that is trying to find a way out, that tries to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and exert minimal amount of energy. If you didn't get a chance to fill out this questionnaire, there's a download below this video, and every time you comment, you get into a draw every month. We choose one lucky person to get in a tutoring session with me, where we can talk about many things. We can talk about academics, we can talk about strategies, and we can also discuss how to combat your fading enthusiasm. Thank you, and I'll see you later. Bye.